Thanks everybody for being here tonight. I'm Lou Cease. I'm the director of the Rochester Contemporary Art Center. Welcome to tonight's First Friday panel, Under the Influence, Artists Explore Addiction and Loss. And tonight we're going to consider two artists' work through this particular lens. Laura Quattrocchi. Laura?
Hello.
Laura has a solo exhibition in the lab space here and has transformed thousands of discarded lottery tickets into layered sculptures built upon people's hopes, dreams, and 100% loss. They're all losers, right? Yep. And they're really fascinating works, and they're somewhat lighthearted, and you'll hear in depth from Laura tonight, but it's hard not to feel something about the sums of money that people have spent on that many thousand lottery tickets. And if you're informed about it, some of the systemic inequality behind the state-sanctioned lotteries throughout this country. And we'll talk about that a little bit tonight too. And Rivkah, welcome. Through Rivkah's new work, Unmaking My Chains, which is an in-progress project that Rivkah is working on upstairs in our Comp Studios residency, Rivkah's reflecting on personal recovery and the structure of healing through the 12-step program. One artist is really looking outward, gathering stories and traces through reclaimed materials, and the other, Rivkah, looking inward at the deeply personal transformation that she is continuing to go through, and is exploring that through her work. I think it's really also important to note that addiction is really just one lens through which to consider Laura and Rivkah's work, and hopefully they'll delve a little bit into other aspects of their work and their practice overall as artists. To navigate these waters in this conversation tonight, we're privileged to have Lauren Jimerson here to serve as the moderator. Lauren's a Hodinöhšyo artist, trained art therapist, generous facilitator of transformative and healing conversations. I think we gave you a new resume line today in our social post.
Yes, you did.
That was good. That was
I
good.
want to know who wrote it.
Yep. Lauren has been involved here in a number of ways. A close friend of Rivkah. Honored to have you back here, Lauren. Additionally, tonight we're joined by Monroe County's Cactus team, and they're here to share vital resources on addiction services. And Cactus stands for Community Action Coalition, committed to uprooting stigma. We're surrounded by this terrific exhibition called Apparent Contradictions, organized by the Studio Art Quilt Associates. This exhibition opened last Saturday night, kind of a unique timeline for us here in the month of September. And this exhibition of these 30 beautiful and really diverse quilt-based artworks. This exhibition is open through September 20th. And outdoors, on your way out, please check out Late Capital Pods by Jonathan Monahan. Jonathan will also be having a solo exhibition in the lab space in October. For those of you who don't know much about Rivkah, maybe you're new to us, we were founded in 1977. We've always exhibited this type of, I would say, radically eclectic collection of different art forms and genres and media. We also have a long history of supporting artists who are addressing important political and social issues through their work. And as I think all of you know, arts and culture are absolutely under attack in this country. There is very real censorship happening, and funding is being withheld to change organizations' programs. Organizations are being punished because of their past programs. And that being said, in the field, what we call self-censorship is happening, where organizations are really avoiding anything that is possibly contentious. However, we are not going to do that. We're going to lean into all that we've done, our rich history of supporting artists. Thank you, Jim. Programs here that support artists who are addressing important issues, like one of our first projects way back, the first project in the region, artists who were addressing the AIDS crisis. Projects like that, and all the way up through many of the exhibitions you all have viewed here. Those are in our DNA, and we're going to continue to be a venue for the exchange of ideas and relevant and timely dialogue. So stand with us on this for sure, and support our other organizations who are not going quietly. I want to thank and name our small but mighty team here at Roko. I want to thank Alyssa and Jess and Anna are here running the program tonight. Join me in thanking them. And we have a ton of other volunteers who help to make our programs happen. Some of you may know Jean or Frankie, you may know Emily, and also these works that you're surrounded by were installed by a couple artists in the community, Jeffrey and Regan, and also a terrific volunteer here named Chris. I also really want to extend our gratitude to our major funders here at Roko. We're deeply appreciative of the New York State Council on the Arts, the Farish Foundation, the County of Monroe, Gouverneur Arts Fund, Richard Schwartz, and Havens, and above all, we have about 1,000 individual members. Tonight's First Friday, the citywide gallery night. We also organize that for the whole community, all the other small venues. So thanks for your support. A couple little bits of housekeeping, and then I will shut up. We're documenting tonight's talk. Kaylin is here. Thank you, Kaylin. It may take us a while, but we will aim to get some edit of tonight's talk up on our website. So we'll share that out via social and email on our email newsletter. Please silence your phones to help the recording, of course. And also when it's time, after about 45 minutes or so, we'll move to some audience questions. Save those, please, and I'll come around with the microphone so that we can properly amplify your question. Everyone can hear it, and hopefully it'll show up on the recording. So now it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome our moderator. Please join me in thanking extraordinary artist, healer, and guide in these complex conversations, Lauren Jimerson.
Thank you. So I am actually very excited to have this conversation with these two fabulous artists. So these two artists are creating work that centers addiction. And I think it's very important to talk about these things because there is a lot of stigma around it. And so in order to stamp out stigma, we talk about things. And I think that these two artists present two vastly different perspectives. So I'm really excited to really delve into that with each of them. We're gonna start by having you each introduce yourselves and tell us about your art practice. Who wants to go first? Yes, I go.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Quattrocchi. Thank you, Blue, for bringing this together. It's important to talk about as well, not just to see. It's hard for me to label myself what I am because my background is in dance and movement. Like the way I created this was just mingled with my practice into movement. And so I can say that I create installations that are multimedia and there is interaction. I try to create an environment, a happening where people move around. What you see here is a small excerpt of what I really created. I work with the different kind of, not just with making objects, but also with public interaction and participation, and sometimes I perform in the work as well. My inspiration comes from just being outside. When you dance in studios, but with my partner, we did a lot of work outdoors. It's called site-specific in dance. I also have a lot of practice with improvisation, and so when you're outside, you just listen. You listen to the space, to the sounds, and sort of like that brought me into just being interested more in what I was outside the dance studio. My very first project was, and I don't know what, like if I see something on the ground, I just like a magnet. I get curious, the color, the shines. My very first project was, I lived in the New York City area. People lose a lot of stuff, and I was just drawn to that hat and that glove, and I just can't stop looking at it, and I keep on asking myself questions. So I think my work starts with that question of why is there so many people losing hats and gloves? Why? So, but then I don't know, I don't have the answer. I'm like, okay. But then I picked up that hat or that glove, and that's when I started, okay, I don't know what it is now, but one day I will know. And sort of like that's my process of developing the work. And then I collected for 7 years, and then I knew what it was after 7 years. The loser tickets I collect for 5 years, I think. And then I knew what I wanted to do. And I did a second version of the show many years later because someone brought tickets to me to do something. And so I felt compelled to expand the show because of that. So these things are going in the middle of my process. In terms of like form, you can stop me if it's too long. I am interested in form. I am interested in what really interests me when I see these objects on the ground is the reason why people are doing that, the reason why people are throwing something out the window, the reason, and I'm also interested in where they're doing it. So sometimes I feel a little bit like a detective. I'm trying to understand. Yes, I'm interested in the form. I'm interested in the tickets or in the glove, but I'm also interested in the reason why things are the way they are. So that's sort of the observation of my process.
I love the curiosity, but also like how multisensory your involvement is in your practice. So I want to move on to Rivkah. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your practice.
My name is Rivkah Simcha. I am a mixed media artist currently doing the Comp Studio residency in Rivkah upstairs. I work in acrylic paint and collage and ink. I'm also a singer and a performer, and a lot of my work confronts themes of grief and loss and transformation, also responding to the question, what do we make of what has been made of us as humans? How do we process the things we go through? And that's really holding a lot of my interest right now.
Thank you. So this first question is for you, Laura. Your project, The Loser Show, it reconstructs these discarded lottery tickets into sculptural forms addressing chance, aspiration, and collective loss. What motivated this material choice, and how do these found objects help shape the conversations you want to hold?
The lottery tickets were just one of the things that are on the ground in a cityscape. There's many other. I concentrated my interest in that. It was the volume of the tickets. They just keep on flying on me. And how many? Wow, people play. So I'm not a gambler. I don't buy these lottery tickets. I bought it once. I remember when I was in Italy. I'm from Italy originally. When they came out, I remember, and with my brother we went and bought one. And then I lost. Of course, I lost, and I felt tricked. So since that moment, I never bought another one. This is okay. It can be fun to try your luck, but there is something else here that I need to investigate, because once you start paying attention, then you see a world that it was always in front of your eyes, but you never saw it. These people that live next to me, they're going to buy these tickets every day, and they're doing it every day, but I never saw them. I never pay attention. So when you start, that was one of the reasons. It's colorful, especially the scratch off are colorful, and they attract me in the beginning.
I think it's fascinating how you tried it yourself in your own inquiry. You actually were curious as to why would anybody want to do this. I think that's fascinating. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you can say around this project around inequality and hope.
Yes. So one of the things that I have observed was, at that time I was living in Jersey City, New Jersey, which is right next to New York City. So I was commuting in the city, doing my dancing, and then living in Jersey City. And it was like a mostly immigrant neighborhood, and you can call it low income too. I mean, that's where I can afford my rent, whatever. And I noticed that every block there were at least 2 points I was minimum one point of a stop where you can buy the tickets. That's one thing that I noticed. And when I go downtown in Jersey City, which is a much more affluent and wealthier area, I didn't see that. So I'm like, okay, I observed that, noted. That's definitely inequality in my analysis.
Yeah. Any words about hope around this work?
I was having a conversation one day with a friend. The title of the show is Loser Show, so loser is a strong word, and I had a lot of conversation with people. Oh, this is too strong. I'm like, oh, that the people that are playing, they told me that these are the losers. So I'm like, I think this is the loser show because these are losers' tickets. So that's sort of the reasoning. But the word hope came from a conversation I had with a friend of mine, and he says, "Oh, these are also hopes, though." And then I said, "Oh, wow, yeah. Every ticket is one hope to win." So that really stuck with me, and I realized these are many hopes. These are millions of hopes. This is people's energy, their desire to win. Each ticket contains that desire. So it felt very evocative of something. That's why I chose to do that.
Yeah. Rivkah. So your work Unmaking My Chains is both personally rooted and process-oriented, emerging from your experience with recovery and 12-step frameworks. Can you walk us through how the work is taking shape?
Thank you so much. So I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I started going to AA meetings about a year ago. And the work right now is I'm finding that I've worked towards this project without really having a name for it or a framework for it. I think most of my adult life is what I'm realizing. So now that I've arrived to this spot where I have this great program and a great framework that's supporting my sobriety, a lot of these thoughts and feelings I've had in my art are really taking shape in a very tangible way. And that's super exciting to be at Comp Studios to actually have a name and a place to put these things I've been thinking about. So I have this painting here that's untitled, it's a work in progress. It's gonna be part of my show opening first Friday next month. But it's actually based on a drawing I did maybe a year ago, when I was not in the best place emotionally, and now it's taking it and actually making a painting out of a drawing I did in my sketchbook just feels really correct. So it's just been really nice now that I have a framework, now that I have a program to support what I'm moving through, to synthesize it in the artwork just feels really validating and important for my own growth and also my growth as an artist.
I know we had a conversation prior to this, and we touched on emotional sobriety. Would you be able to talk about that and how it connects with your work?
Absolutely. So I stopped drinking alcohol about 3 years ago, and I thought that was it. I'm done drinking. It's out of my life. But at that time, I didn't know that there's more to being sober than just not drinking alcohol. There's emotional sobriety. There's so much more that goes with it because alcoholism is a lot of different things. It's not just about drinking alcohol. There's underlying, it's a symptom. So emotional sobriety, in my view, is very much about keeping your emotions and your expectations in check as you move through your life. Like a lot of the disquiets that I feel, if I don't sort of check myself and trace where they're coming from, I can just run amok and really just sabotage my life and my relationships. It's very much about being aware of when are we being dependent on others in our circumstances to find joy and peace and contentment. And Laura, like you said, one day I will know. And that really struck a chord with me because I also feel like we move through all these things and then we can look back from a vantage point. That's why all this happened. That's why I picked this up. That's why I made that drawing. I was asking for help. I was looking for something, a hand in dark to pull me through out of a dark time. And I look at this painting and I remember where I was when I made the idea for it. And it's like, oh, now I know why I moved through that. And it really is just a giant mystery we're all in.
It sure is. And I think a lot of things are process. I often talk about addiction as a process. It's a process going in, and it's also a process going out that I think like people generally assume that like you can just stop. So coming out of it is also going to be a process. There is no just cut and dry about it. Speaking of process. And so in the Loser Show, Laura, you described gathering stories and materials from others, the way you say, like, bring me your losers. How do these communal narratives influence your process?
Well, when you hear people's stories, someone told me they spend all their salary buying the tickets. That's a problem in my vocabulary, in my world. So I was like, okay, I'm not here to judge. I heard a lot of kind of stories like this. Some people, they see me collecting and they think that, oh, you're double checking them. What? What? No, this is an artistic project, but they could never imagine that I'm doing an artistic project. For them, I'm just taking them to make sure that these are not winners. Wow, that's what the people are thinking, obsessed with, and because I clean outside, so I always see the same people, and then the same people, they're like routinized, it's a routine. So you go in the morning, and you go to that spot, and you buy your tickets. Then you leave, you scratch it while you're walking, and then actually, I show you what they do. So they either do like this, and they throw it, or they do like this.
Performance.
Yes, I can help myself. So I would collect all the pieces and putting them all together. I would puzzle them back. So I made like a mosaic with all this movement of tearing. And I would ask people. Some people they do it for fun, but most of the people are actually, and they don't say that they have a problem. They don't. I don't know. Somehow they don't. But you also, the way, the nervousness of the movement when they're scratching, it's telling to me. This is just what I observed.
Yeah, I think that's quite the observation. I don't think I ever thought about the way that people scratch tickets and the energy and what that tells about somebody in that moment. Are those kind of things that you take into the process of your making?
Yes, I am interested in that form. I am interested in the movement. And in the interactive part of my show, I did like a piece like I crumbled the tickets like that, and I put them in a ball and I hang them from the ceiling. You pull it, and that's a hope shower.
Thank you. Rivkah, the title Unmaking My Chains suggests release or transformation. Can you speak to the role of making as a method of processing?
I'm undergoing so much personal growth right now just in my affairs in life, and throughout life I've always used art and making as a way to process things I go through. It's just sort of a way to survive for me personally, so it's felt very congruent leading up to this moment that I'm going through so much personal transformation, and to have these opportunities to share about it just feels really aligned. You know, I think one of the biggest paradigm shifts for me through doing the step work is a spiritual awakening that has been happening for me. And it's, in this piece in particular, is about surrendering and just holding on. And it's about stopping my own willpower. Just like, I'm trying to control things that cannot be controlled right now. And that's a big source of my discontentment. And those would lead to things that I would drink over. When I feel like I'm trying to control things, I want an outcome that gets this situation in check, and I have no control. I am powerless over people, places, and things. I am powerless over alcohol. Let me just surrender. And I didn't have the language for that before, but it's truly helped me navigate life. And to be able to make art about it is just really helping me reify it for myself, and to be able to talk about it better for others and people in my life. I think there's a risk of it sounding like I have to figure it out, which I really don't. Like, it's hard. It's a process. I had bad days, but there is a ritualized aspect to it. Now I can think back on the steps, think back on that surrender, speaking to my higher power, just remove this from my mind. I'm clearly trying to control things. Stop me, stop it from happening. And it helps. It decenters my thinking in a way. And it's not so much that I think that it's going to provide a good outcome for me. It's more about being comfortable and not knowing what's going to happen, and just when I'm turning my will over. It's out of my control. Why am I worrying about it?
You have the means to help yourself. We're all human at the end of the day. And I think what you have talked about is the power of art in healing. Like when we're making art, we're essentially having conversations with ourselves and we're reflecting back to ourselves when we create. And that's where, revelations happen. But I think the root is like self-inquiry and self-investigation. What is this? And of course that creates catharsis when finishing a piece. I love finishing a piece of art. But thank you for bringing out the ritual that takes place in your work. And I wanted to come back to you, Laura. I'm wondering if ritual serves any place in your work.
Yeah, I guess my ritual is cleaning outside and talking to people. That connects me to the world. I see them and I see what's happening. Also my source of inspiration, I would say.
I love that. So I like how ritual plays a part in both of the process of your work, but they're different. I'm just curious about any of the structural inequalities, in the background of like the alcohol and the gambling industry that, we're talking about.
I think it's very obvious. I live in a neighborhood where I think nobody wants to live. That wasn't Jersey City. I live in Detroit now. The only businesses that are around are a gas station and the liquor store. It's like considered like food desert areas, and you can buy some products in the liquor store. They also sell cheap bread and things like this, but you can buy the lottery tickets and you can buy the little bottle of booze. Yes, I think that's pretty obvious. I ask why a society arrives to this point. That's one question. Why can there be a nice park nearby? Or why can government, intervene in this kind of reality in a matter? Or there can be a center for addiction in a neighborhood where there is not just gambling, but there is other drug issues.
Certainly the two, alcohol and gambling, are, connected in that way. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think our society is just really structured around alcohol in a very big way. It's very acceptable beverage to drink. I know like during COVID lockdown, like in-person gatherings were, not allowed. So like AA went on Zoom. Not everybody has internet access and access to Zoom. And obviously those things were disbanded because of, health reasons. But like AA is also a life-saving, framework that people need, and so that was disbanded. However, bars were open, you could still get alcohol. So it's like, who's benefiting from this arrangement? And it's just, you have to ask those questions. For me, my drinking got to be the worst during lockdown, right? So it's like you're just alone and, it's very easy to turn to these sort of self-medicating behaviors that are harmful.
Certainly. So we are, of course, joined by our partners Cactus, as Blue mentioned. They're here to share resources around addiction support. So this is for you, Laura. How do you see your work connecting intentionally or not to community healing or public dialogue around addiction?
I'm glad to start a conversation. I'm glad to bring my experience. I don't solve problems, but right here, right now, we have an organization that can give support. Or if you know anybody that needs support, then they're here. There is definitely a stigma around gambling, and I remember I said, oh, I don't know. I mean, there is a number behind the back of these tickets for gambling addiction problems. Call this number. Very small. I think that should be bigger. Like it should be in the front. Like small kills. Like maybe that can help. And I did research. I asked AI, so what's the percentage of people calling that number? Oh wow. And it says there is basically it's not used. Yeah. There is very to none usage of that I think that's something else that could be tackled. I don't know how, but to have like the organization that is here tonight more present, that's definitely a solution.
Yes. I used to work as an addictions counselor, and I told Laura how doing an assessment, like led to, maybe someone telling me like they have a gambling addiction. I was only told to give them this number. They can call this number. There's no one to make a referral to.
Well, just one other thing. I think people have a time admitting, and you can speak about it. I don't have a trauma over this. I don't have an addiction like that. But I think people have a time admitting that they have an addiction.
I think there's a lot of stigma about speaking about it, that there's something wrong with me. And I know it took me a long time to really feel like I can claim this identity and that it explains a lot about myself, but it's a process and it's a journey, but you need to have the exposure to what it is. If no one's calling the hotline, there's no exchange of ideas or information. You need to know about what's going on or know what's out there.
The stigma. I think that, addiction is looked at as a moral failing, but it actually is rooted in the brain and our reward centers. But I think because of that history, we still hold that idea or feeling of it being a moral failing, and that is what produces the stigma around it. And like I said, that's why these conversations are important to have. So Rivkah, I want to ask what you would say this work says about your personal recovery journey.
I think this work for me, personal recovery, is about honesty and looking inward fearlessly. And I think depending on how your brain is wired, there could be a lot of defenses. You can defend against the truth in so many ways. There's cognitions that just sort of deflect you away from what's really going on with you. Other people in your life can enable you. Maybe they have an agenda. Maybe they like that version of you addicted to gambling and alcohol. Who knows what your situation is, but you need to be honest about what's going on. I'm not saying that I'm certainly defended. Like all humans, we have defenses in order to survive what can be a very hard situations, but peeling the onion back, looking fearlessly at what you find is a piece of it. That's how you recover. And holding yourself accountable for the things that, keeping your side of the street clean in your relationships with others. You can't clean somebody else's street for them. That's their responsibility. So for me, it's like calling myself to task in my life and my relationships. What do I own and what do I need to let other people own for themselves? Because in life, I think I get into a lot of trouble when I think I know how everyone should live, and everyone should be doing things. I gotta, part of this recovery process with emotional sobriety is letting that go. I gotta relinquish that control. I gotta turn it over to my higher power.
It takes a lot of vulnerability, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, vulnerability and honesty in a big way.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So Laura, what's next in your exploration of cultural debris and society?
I've been looking at broken glass. There's a lot of it. So I think that's gonna be my next, but maybe not. Maybe I'll find something else. And then I keep on thinking about it.
Oh my God, that's intriguing. Looking forward to see what you do or don't come up with all that broken glass.
Maybe you don't want to see.
I don't know.
I have wild ideas.
And Rivkah, how do you think the process of creating Unmaking My Chains will impact your recovery? And do you think it will impact your future artwork?
I think it's paramount. I mean, this has just been such an exercise in looking inward, and so much of my art is about looking inward and that vulnerability. I have a lot of other things going on in life right now that are really in concert with this moment. My friend Molly O'Reilly, who's right over there, and I have an art show open at Genesee Valley Council on the Arts right now called Mothering in the Dark, and we both made this show about being vulnerable about our experience as parents. So that's open right now. I'm also in a theater troupe called The Velvet Noose, and we have a performance coming up for Rochester Fringe called Stampede of One, the musical, which is also very vulnerable. And my personal art always walks hand in hand with the work we do on stage. It's our 11th show for the Muck, which is a venue over on Atlantic Avenue, really wonderful black box theater. We love performing there. My finished show will be on view upstairs on October 3rd, and this just feels like such a wonderful practice for me to just look inward, turn inward, and continue to make, art that is helping me also become a better person, more whole, more spiritually sound. I'm grateful.
So you guys know what to do. Go visit and see all of Rivkah's work. So this is the time. We'll do some Q&A. If anybody has any questions.
I could probably chime in with a quick one. Laura, we've talked about the sculptures you've made out of the spent lottery tickets, the losers. Your show sort of also contains a counterpoint in the smaller frameworks. Can you talk about those and how you came to make those pieces?
Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Describe them too.
One morning I just woke up and then I had this thought. I can buy lottery tickets, scratch-off tickets. At that time I was working with a scratch-off. And I just don't scratch them and I can seal them. And that's what I did. So and I also asked people to do that, friends. I would ask them, if you are in, Michigan, you buy a ticket and you send it to me. So that was also a way to see if people were able to do that. Because it's hard, you buy one scratcher, right? So my brother, for example, in Italy was not able. He said, no, I cannot. He couldn't. But yeah, so I never scratched. I bought them and I never scratched them and I just sealed them forever. So we're never gonna know that.
So are those almost like an exercise in reclaiming control over addiction?
For me?
Maybe?
No, it's just I don't see things, I see things in a different way. I don't see a piece of paper that can make me a millionaire. I just see a piece of paper. And I just want to seal that lock, I want to seal that idea. I'm not interested. That was easy for me. It's not easy for people that scratch, but for me it was easy. So that was just offering a different perspective on what's in front of you.
Each of those works will always have hope, right?
They have hope. Yeah, they were never scratched.
Suspended potential.
Exactly.
Rivkah, what the process is for making this project that you're making. Are you painting a series of pieces like this one that were sketchbook pieces? Are you feeling the feelings around addiction and your recovery right now and letting them intuitively lead you into what imagery is coming forward? Can you talk more about that?
Thanks, Molly. It's a little bit of everything. Once I found this, I didn't go into this thinking I was going to use that drawing, but I had this shape, and then I found I really love how it perfectly fits the figure. It's very confined, but there's a surrender aspect, and upon surrendering, these flowers are blooming. It's like giving up your will and seeing what emerges from that. So I think I will do some other on that theme, but there's definitely going to be, I've been monoprinting, I've been ripping paper, I've just been seeing what happens. I definitely have some previously started things that I'm kind of trying to turn a different frame and eye on. So it's been sort of a lot of different aspects. It's been fun.
Laura, has any of the people you collected from seen your work and been affected by it?
Yes. So the more pinkish color lotto tickets, they were given to me by someone in Detroit. He lives in my neighborhood and he's my friend. And I kind of explained to him this project that I did. And then he said, I play. I'll bring you some. Well, the story is that he would bring me mountains of them, boxes full. And he played himself. He told me that he spent $800 a month. But he was disciplined. He has a budget. So he's actually he's got a budget. He's got to figure it out, and that's perfect. After many years of, mountains of these tickets, I said, okay, I'm going to do something. And then I did it. And then when he came to the show, he was surprised. He was incredibly amazed, and he loved it. But he's still spending $800 a month. But he said to me, I know you'll do something good with it. That's what he said.
Well, that concludes question and answer. And so, Laura, how can people continue to support your work?
I have an Instagram account. I also I do improvisation with trash. I call this project like trash action. So I put all these videos that I do on my Instagram. Instagram is a nice format for that kind of work. If you are curious, you can just, it's my name, Laura Quattrocchi. And I have a website, and I also do performance work. So in my website, you can see some of that too.
And Rivkah, I know you shared some things that you have going on, but are there any other ways that people can support your work?
Yes, I realized I didn't say Molly and I actually have an artist talk on September 27th out at Genesee Valley Council on the Arts in Mount Morris. It's at 1 o'clock. Please, we'd love to see you out there. We're going to talk a little bit more about our show, Mothering in the Dark. For the Velvet Noose, our shows are at the Muck on 2 Saturdays, September 13th and September 20th at 8 p.m. Tickets are selling. So if you're curious about avant-garde theater that's vulnerable, it's our first time doing a musical, we'd love to see you over there. Please come see my completed series. It'll be showing upstairs on October 3rd on First Friday. Thank you so much, everybody.
Join me in thanking the artists and Lauren for terrific moderation.